Right, good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for joining the Stratos webinar today. I'm joined by Nicole and Mel, who will be our moderators. They will take questions. We're using Microsoft Teams in webinar format, so this means that if you've got a question, you can post it into the Q&A on the meeting. I think there's a Q&A option or the chat, either or. And Nicole and Mel will stop me on the way through for questions. I will try to stop at the end of each of the sort of sections that I'm doing so we can pick up any questions that might come through there. We have got quite a lot to cover, so I'll do brief questions. If we need to go into a bit more detail afterwards, then I'm happy to follow up afterwards if there's anything specific. So I'll start with a brief introduction about myself. My name's Steve Knutson. I am one of the co-founders of Stratos Technology Partners. I've been doing this gig for about 14 and a half years. I'm also a Microsoft MVP for Office Apps and Services. I'm a Microsoft Regional Director, and I'm also a blogger and YouTuber. And in my spare time, I paddle a kayak out in the Avon Heathcote estuary and out into Sunda sometimes. And I'll share these slides later. My contact details are here if you want to get hold of me. So just about this webinar, to give you a bit of a context about what I want to get out of this webinar, my objective, my primary goal here is to give you some ideas, tips and tricks on how to get the most out of Copilot, and also demonstrate some of the features of Copilot in a wide variety of uses. So you'll get a feel for the types of things it can do. One thing it can do is it can generate summarized content notes. So I'll be working off a summary that I generated just a few minutes before this meeting with a quick prompt in PowerPoint that said, summarize this slide to give me speaking notes so that I keep on track and do things in the right order. So we'll see how good that was. This is an experiment. I haven't gone back and verified that it's got it right, but that's part of the fun of AI, isn't it? So just to give you a wee bit of background, I'm going to show this scary looking diagram. But it's not as scary as it looks. It really just tells us how Microsoft Copilot links into the Microsoft 365 environment. And that's kind of important for two reasons. One is what's different about Copilot compared to other AI tools. And also what's similar, because a lot of things we'll talk about today you could do in ChatGPT or other tools. And a few of the things you can do are only Copilot specific. I'll try and point those out as we go. The main thing that we have in here is this thing called a large language model, and you can't live in 2025 and have not heard the term, but essentially that's the brain. That's the thing that's been trained to interpret and provide knowledge back into AI, into the AI prompt that you ask. And then there's this other thing down here which you might not have heard of. It's called the Microsoft Graph, and that's the thing which gives it context. So in the context in the Microsoft 365 world, that context is your email, your Teams conversations, the people you work with, your documents, etc. And so what Copilot does that's a little bit unique is it takes a combination of the context from the Office Graph to help answer questions and perhaps try and do them in a sort of a business-centric way. If you look back on this previous slide here, you'll see my Copilot landing page. And on here, you'll see it says, when's my next meeting with Ashley Lightfoot? And what's the latest from Mel Ross organised by emails, chats, and so on. So that is the context that comes from the Office Graph. It knows that both Mel and Ashley work with me and are frequent communicators. And so it's prompting me and saying, perhaps you want to find out something about from those people. Whereas it hasn't spoken about the other people in the company that I don't interact with as much. So it's got the context, it knows that I'm communicating, and it's not just org structure either. It's much more than that. It's who I interact with electronically, of course. The other thing which I've missed here is that everything exists in Copilot within what's called the Microsoft 365 service itself, which means that any security and compliance things that your IT people have configured will apply to content within Copilot. So it's protected, it's a corporate enterprise grade solution, and so it has those enterprise grade features around security, compliance, and One thing it doesn't do, which a lot of the free tools do, is it doesn't train. Microsoft doesn't get your data; it stays in your environment. So if we're thinking about like probably the very most important question that comes up when we talk about AI in general is around security and compliance. And the reason why this is important is because for many of us, we started our AI journey using the free tools. ChatGPT came out, it's a free version. There's numerous other tools out there that are free. And we're kind of tempted because sometimes they're pretty good. And we go, why would we use a paid tool over a free one? So the main benefit is that security and protection, and the fact that the paid tools generally, they check with your vendor, generally do not train using your data. There's been a couple of major issues with organisations. One for the Australian Ministry of Defence, where a contractor used an AI model, a free AI model, to present some information in that scenario. In that actual case, they lost a contract worth several $1 billion because they had exposed or potentially exposed very sensitive information to a public model, which is available to the general public to use. Some examples of free ones: there's a free version of ChatGPT. There's a tool called Notebook LM. There's Otter AI has both a paid and a free version. There's a meeting note-taking tool. Examples of the paid ones: there's a ChatGPT paid version that's safe to use in a corporate environment. There's Copilot, both the free and the paid version. So Microsoft actually very good with this. They say even their free version doesn't train. Perplexity is another one which is widely used. We see that in sales teams a lot. So you don't want your sales guys and girls uploading all of your sales information to one of these public tools that others could potentially then see your pricing information, for example. So I'll jump on now to actually the main topic at hand, which is how can AI help us throughout our day? So I did a little exercise a few weeks ago, and I've done this a few times now, where I looked at the day in my life and where I can use AI for different tools, the AI tools for different parts of it. So my day starts usually in the morning before work, scrolling through screens of emails on my phone and like looking at my calendar, and then often like putting my phone down quite quickly, and then eventually picking it up again because I've got a busy inbox and a busy calendar. I then spend time reading things that I'm interested in. So news topics, topics around the industry that I work in, topics around the products that I'm interested in, etc. I prep myself for meetings. I follow up after meetings. I research different topics to find out more about them. I brainstorm things sometimes with my teams, like, well, how are we going to tackle this problem? It's a bit of a brainstorm exercise. And I do lots of responding to email and chats. In fact, Microsoft told me that I received last month 679 emails, and I sent over 180 emails myself. So divide that by the 19 days that we had of work in June, and you'll see it's quite a big number, and you'll start to understand the problem. So what I'll do now is I'll jump into some demos, and I'll take you through some of the things that you can use in Copilot. And these are also relevant to other AI tools as well. I'm going to use Copilot for this demo, but you can do similar things in ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude, etc. Pick your favorite tool here. Just make sure that's a safe one to use. And you can do these kinds of things. What I'll do is after each section, I'll stop and just, if there's any questions, if you just pop those in the chat, and Nicole and Mel will pick those up for me. Okay, so the very first question is, how do you talk to your AI? One of the experiences that many people get is that they'll ask their AI to do something, and they'll expect it to produce the perfect output, and then they become very disappointed at the result they get. So a model that's really good for working with any AI tool is GCSE. So if you're from the UK, you'll know what GCSE is, but in this case, it's setting the goal, what is it I want to achieve, giving the context in relation to what it is that I'm wanting to get, being specific about the source. If I want to get something related to email, for example, I would say using my email, and then setting the expectation around what it is you want back. Now, if you do those 4 things, both with AI and with teenage boys, you'll get a much better response than if you just put in a very short sentence. A good prompt should be somewhere around about 25 to 30 words long. If you're doing what most people do, 5 to 6 words, then you're going to get a more general response and the quality will be lower. That's my first tip. It's an art to writing a good prompt, and it takes time to get into the headspace to do it. What you can do is you can save those prompts in your favorite note-taking tool, or in Copilot, you can go back through your prompt history if you wish. You can even schedule them. I'll show you that as well. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start by jumping into a demo. So I'll just stop sharing that screen and I will start sharing. This one here. So I'm going to start with Microsoft Copilot. So the easiest way to get to Copilot is if you log into your Microsoft 365, and at the top of the screen, in the top left-hand corner, you can go and launch from the app launcher, which is the 9 little dots in the top left corner of the screen, or you can just go to office.com, which is microsoftoffice.com, and sign in with your Microsoft 365 credentials, and it will take you through into the screen also. You can also access this through Microsoft Teams if you've added the Teams add-in for Copilot into Teams. So you just go to in Teams, add an app, and then you can just add that Copilot from the menu. This assumes that you have a Microsoft Copilot license assigned. So I do have a license, so a lot of the things I'm going to show now will require a license. I will show a few things that you can do without the license as well. So you'll see the very first thing that comes up here is a what can I help you with screen, and it tries to work out some of the things that it might be able to help us with. Now in this window here, because I'm at the Microsoft 365 level, it will work across all of my products. It will work across Teams, Outlook, SharePoint, OneDrive, anything that I'm working with in the Microsoft 365 space will be generally accessible from here based on my permissions. So if I have permission to see something, I can. If I don't have permission to see something, then I won't see it in this space. And I can ask it a few questions. So I'm going to just, for example, I'm going to try this one here with when's my next meeting with Ash. And I'm just going to run this, and it will probably come up and it will tell me when the next meeting is. And you'll see it's given me a few things here about some meetings that Ash is also involved in. And you'll see that tomorrow at 12 o'clock, supercarts, go-kart racing, but actually we have some planning meetings. We have a meeting called Dojo, which is a knowledge sharing meeting in our team and so on. And then I can drill into more detail here if I want to, and I can ask it more questions. You'll see down the bottom, it prompts me here for things like show me the agenda. So I can ask it to show the agenda for those meetings and ask more questions. So this is the most basic feature of Copilot. If I go back up here, I'll just show you 2 quick little things. What I did there was I just started a new chat. Now, the reason why I did that was that when we start chatting with Copilot, each time we ask a question, it builds on the knowledge that it has from the previous questions. And so if you change context, so if you're working on the same line of questions, so like you're having a conversation with someone about what's happening with a particular project, for example, and you can continue asking questions that will be in the context of that first prompt that you asked. If I change topics and go, now I want to talk about something completely different, I'm better to go and start a new prompt rather than continue a new topic on the same prompt. It's like having 2 meetings where you're crossing subjects during the meeting backwards and forwards. From the AI's point of view, it's much better if you have a focused conversation following one stream. That will get you a much better response in general. Another thing to notice is at the top here, we've got this option, which is work and web. If I go to web, I'm now using internet, and I can ask it a question. So if I just go, tell me the latest news from the Nelson floods, you'll see that it'll go out and it's going to find information from the internet and try and report that back to me. Now, if I then wanted to then ask another follow-on question, so are there evacuation orders? Is probably a good question. Let's ask that one. You'll see Copilot tries to work out what questions you might want to ask, and it's going to give me a bit more detail on that. I could give it a bit more context though. So I can say something like, give me a summary of the Nelson floods over the past week. Generate the results as a table and order by the date. And so I'm giving it a bit more information about what it is that I want, and now I should get quite a different result. So now I get this kind of table result in my prompt. And you'll see what I did there was I gave it some more context. I set some parameters around it. I told it what I expected the output to be as being a table, and the sort order in which I wanted it to be as well. And so I get a quite different result than my very first question that I asked further up. So one of the things I love about Copilot is the ability to create tables, because they're really easy to then copy and paste using the little copy option down here and take that into another application. So if I want to generate an update on a particular topic and get the latest news summary of that, so I can take that somewhere else. You can also see down here it's got references. So where did it get that information from? So you can and the references themselves are in here, so I can see where that's come from, which is quite helpful. But one of the things that's actually really useful in Copilot is the ability to create what I call a super prompt. Now, a super prompt is a combination of activities. So I'm asking Copilot to do more than one thing. So what I'm going to do is just going to reset up here by starting a new chat so that I lose the context that I've just had around the Nelson floods. And I'm going to, rather than type this in, I'm just going to paste it in, but I'm going to read it out to you so that you can sort of get a feel for what it is. So help me prepare for my day by creating a summary of the following things presented as a table. Start with a list of today's meetings and a table with a brief summary. Then create a list of things that might not have been actioned over the last 3 days. It would be good to know the headlines for any SharePoint announcements from Microsoft. And finally, can you brief me on the scores from any major rugby or cricket matches? So I'm asking Copilot to do a whole bunch of things here. So it's got to look at my calendar, it's got to go out to the internet, it's got to look at my email history and my chat history in order to answer this question. And you'll see I made one mistake. I'm going to do this again. This time I'm going to do it on work. So I'm going to paste that same one in, and away we go. Now this is my live inbox. I'm not sure what's going to come up because I haven't actually run this today, but here we go. I've got some different things, some different meetings that I've had coming up, and then I've got some unactioned items I've got to do a bunch of things for, and then you'll see it's got down here some recent SharePoint announcements, and finally it's given me this some information about the India versus England cricket, which is going to help me when I have to talk to people in our office about the cricket, about what's coming up in the cricket. And so that's what I call that as a super prompt. And the idea of the super prompt is that you can, it can, with one go, can give you like a summary of your day. To replace that morning, I'm looking at the news pages on the news stuff website, I'm looking at my inbox, I'm looking at my calendar, and so on, all in one go. And there's another trick you can do with Copilot, and that is that up here, once I've got this item up here, I've got this little thing here called schedule, and I can schedule this prompt. So what I can do here is I can specify what days it runs, and I can have it send me the results as a Copilot chat, and it'll pop those results in on the schedule, so I don't even have to remember to go and do it. And then it just shows up down the side down here in my conversations that I've had, and I'll have the ability to just pick that up when I need to. It's automatically done for me. I'm doing less I don't even need to interact with Copilot really to get that answer. It's just going to generate it for me once I've got it. So these can be quite good fun because you can use this, because it can see the internet, it can look at all kinds of things. So if you've got different activities or things that you want to know about, like, what time is MasterChef on? That's a question my wife asked me last night. Why is it not on at 7:30? So that's because they've bumped Shortland Street out for an hour for some reason. But you can ask any questions with anything where the public information might be available. It can help you. So that's something I really like about this. Another thing I can do is I can use other features in Copilot. So what I've been doing so far has been using the basic Copilot. Now, and you'll see that it responds relatively quickly. And what we know is that if we give someone a job and they come back with the answer straight away, they've probably just gone to the nearest piece of information. The same's true with AI. So if I ask it a question and it responds quickly, it's because it's just used the first thing that it found. But I can do more advanced things. I've got this option here called Researcher. And what Researcher does is it does a much more detailed, it takes longer to run, but it gives you a much more detailed result. So for example, I can ask it, we can type it in directly, but I'm going to ask it to update me. It's going to create a comprehensive report on the latest advancements in, I'm going to pick a topic, accounting, including work and web sources. Okay, so now what it's doing is it's going to go out and it's going to spend a lot more time thinking about it. And one of the things that you'll see here is now asking me for a bit more information. Specifically, I would like to know if there are any items from the New Zealand government budget that might that I need to consider. And what it's going to do now is it's going to, because I've given a bit more context, it's going to go away and do a bit more. And you'll see what it's doing here is it's going out to the internet and it's looking to different places. Now, I did this yesterday and it went out and it looked at the KPMG website, found a related case study and some news that they had in a report on a topic that I was interested in. And that helped me to go, but I didn't get any of that information when I did the basic prompt. So what it's doing is it's doing like any good researcher does. Instead of coming back to you with the quick answer, it's now going out and giving you the long answer to that problem. So it's looking through various places like accounting advancements in the New Zealand budget. This could take a while, but the good news is that the result that it gets out the end will be much more, will have covered a much broader range of things. Well, we're down here. You'll see, so it's looking at Xero, the Xero website that is. So down here, you'll see it's also got Analyst. So Analyst is similar, but different. Analyst is about data. So if I'm using Excel, for example, and I want to pull insights from a set of data or visualize some information, then Analyst can help me with that. I can go out and I can use the Analyst in a sort of a persona. So it's like I've got my own favorite data analyst sitting in my computer instead of down the hallway. And I can go and ask them to help me with a bunch of stuff around data where maybe that's not my level of expertise on that thing, and it can help me interpret information better. I've got plenty to go, so I won't go into this one, but I'll just show you that this exists. We also have stuff that's a bit more fun. So you'll notice on here it's got Confluence Cloud. Confluence is a wiki product, and we've integrated Confluence into our Copilot. So we can ask questions from our Confluence wiki things. I saw Gordon McKendrick, I think, was on the call before. Did I see that right? And yes, I know Gordon loves Confluence. So there's probably many other people that do as well. But Confluence is a tool that allows you to capture knowledge down. It's quite widely used in many different industries, but often in engineering and software development, it's really prevalent. IT departments. We can plug that into Copilot and ask questions from Confluence as well. We've got the Visual Creator. Visual Creator can create images as well as videos. So we had a little exercise as a team recently where I asked my team to come back with a presentation on things for improvement within our team. And one of them came back with a video generated, a generated video to do the presentation for them rather than doing it in themselves. They were present, but they let the video do the talking. I must say it was quite professional. And it just took the prompts were a series of bullet points from a PowerPoint slide deck that they'd used to come up with the ideas plugged into the video. We won't do that today because it takes a bit of time, but we can do things like generate an image. This one here's an image of a simple gold trophy with confetti to recognise for a job well done. But you could do anything. I actually have a couple of slides where I've generated the images in PowerPoint. You can do this in PowerPoint or through here. So in PowerPoint, you can just use the Copilot icon from the top right of PowerPoint, and you can say create an image and then give it a description of what you want to create, and away it will go. So hopefully this is going to come up with something pretty quickly. So just
I have a question for you.
Yes, question.
Are these agents specific to your company, or are these generic Microsoft agents?
So everything I've showed so far is generic. So these are I haven't shown the Confluence one because that's our secret source, so I won't be going into that one. But all of the things I've shown so far are built into the standard Copilot agents. What's different is that it's in the context of me and our organization. So if you're in your organization, it's not going to come up and say, tell me what's happening in Mel Ross's calendar. It's going to say whoever your colleague that you work with a lot. So there we go. So we've generated an image. It's just putting the final touches on that image, and then I can copy and paste that image somewhere, send it to someone. You can do much more than this. You can get really creative. You can ask it. You can tell it to do things like in the style of Wallace and Gromit, for example, if you wanted to create a cartoon character, or in the style of, and then followed by what the style is that you need. So thinking back to that GCSE approach, the expectation will be what's the output. I want it in cartoon format, or I want it as a photo. I want it to look like a realistic person, or I want the person to have, blue hair. Any of those kinds of things that you want, you include that in the prompt, and it will generate an image for you. One little fact about image generation is that there's different places where you can generate images. Microsoft also has a tool called Microsoft Designer, which is free. You can log in with your Microsoft 365 login, and using Microsoft Designer, you can create images as well. So if you don't have a Copilot license, you can do that through designer.microsoft.com to get to that one. Now, another thing I'll show is I want to just show a little bit about some of the like something that I do a little bit, which is like around summarizing content. So many of us have used AI to go summarize something, but I'm going to show you something here. This is using our terms of business, which is available publicly on our website. So not showing anything here, but you'll see that this document has had some effort put into the creation of it. We've been working with our legal team to create this, and then I might have a few questions though. So I can use Copilot. So now I'm using the free Copilot. You'll see the Copilot icon on the top right-hand corner of Microsoft Edge. This one here, this works for both the free and the paid one. So the trick is that in the paid version, you'll see work up here, and the free version, it just gives you the web only. So I can ask it a question. I can say, summarize this document. And it's going to give me, hopefully, a wee summary of the document. Okay, so that's kind of, it's okay, but it's not particularly useful, right? It's not giving me a lot of stuff. What I might want to do instead is I might want to find gaps. So I could say, ask you a question, say, what improvements could I make to this terms of business document? And now what it's going to do is it's going to start looking at it and say, perhaps here's some things I could do to improve it. If you've got like a company policy, for example, that you're reviewing, you might want to review the company policy. You can do this and say, are there any changes that I should consider in here for health and safety, for example? And it will help you to identify where the gaps are. one of the things that happens often is when we're working with long documents, regardless of whether it's in terms of business like this or a long document that you're authoring at work, is that there's always room, the opportunity to miss things because we only understand or only think about the things that are relevant to us. So we might want to ask if somebody else is reading this document, what might be interesting to them. So who owns the intellectual property of a software project where Stratos has done the development? So now I'm asking it a question. The answer will be in here somewhere. And it's going to hopefully go now and start asking a bit more about that. So now you'll see it's gone into sort of a more detailed mode. So now it's asking me a question in here. So are there any specific terms or areas where we wouldn't own the IP? So let's use a so now it's going to see and say, yep, so if it's pre-existing IP, if it comes from a third party, or if it's general knowledge and skills, or an open source component. So now it's starting to give me a lot more detail from that contract to answer some of those common questions or the questions that you might have, and a bit more detail around it. So that's document summarization, and you can do that with both a web page or PDF files if you have the PDF open in Edge. And it's free. You can use the free Edge Copilot up here to do that. The only catch with the free one is that you do have a limit on the number of questions per day you can ask it. It will eventually stop responding if you ask it too much. Another tool, though, that you might want to use is, if you've got the paid version, is a thing called a notebook. Now, I know, for example, many of our clients will have documents that they want to work on that aren't stored in SharePoint. So if the content's in SharePoint, Copilot's generally pretty good. But what if it's not stored in SharePoint? You've got that document from somewhere and you're wanting to work on it. Maybe somebody sent you a document as an attachment and you think, I want to be able to load that document somewhere where I can use that, use my AI tools with it. So there's a concept called a notebook. This came from a product called Google Notebook LM, which was made by Google. Notebook LM is quite cool. It's got a couple of neat features. I'll talk to how Microsoft has done it here. Essentially, what we do is we start with creating a notebook. And in our notebook, we can attach documents. So I've just attached the same terms of reference here. We can also link to content. So we've got a link from SharePoint or OneDrive. We can post that link into here. We can upload documents from our local computer, or we can connect to documents from other parts of SharePoint. So we create a small collection of documents. I don't know what the actual limit is. I think it might be 5 or 10, that sort of order of documents. But what it's doing is it's creating a little chatbot that uses just that document as my source. So in here, I can ask it questions like, when payments due, and it will go away and look at that terms of reference document, and maybe there's some information there about terms of payment, terms of business around payment, and it's got a bit of information here about late payments and invoice disputes and interim invoices and other bits and pieces. So and you'll see it's just using just that document. So then I can ask a different question related to that document, which might be when are these terms effective from? And now it's going to go and again, hopefully better answer us a question again using that same document. So the thing that's really useful to understand here is that because that notebook is only using that document and no other external things, I can be confident that I'm getting a response from that set of documents only. And it's, for me personally, what it does in the background is it stores that document in a folder inside my OneDrive. So I'm the only person that can access that content as well. So I've got a couple of safety barriers there to prevent this document from becoming generally available to other people in my organization. So this is great if you're doing something where you're wanting to just work on this by yourself and answer questions. The other tool that we have is what's called an agent. And so an agent is sort of the next level up from a notebook. An example of an agent, I've got one here. This agent, I'm inside SharePoint. You'll see this is a SharePoint document library. And inside my SharePoint document library, I've got a library called Enviro Agents. And in here, I've collected a bunch of documents. So again, this is curated content. I've got information about construction, near waterways. I've got dust, noise. I've got a summary of the regulations from Environment Canterbury. I've got some things about a report from Environment Canterbury about working river engineering. And I've got some information about working near railway lines. So let's just fire up my little agent here. And this agent, I've customized it to include some starter prompts. So I'm going to say, as an engineer working on a bridge, what should I do to mitigate runoff into runoff? So I'll just go runoff. So we'll do that. And what this is going to do is it's going to use a set of content. So this is really good if you've got a curated set of documents that you're wanting to work with to help answer questions. And you'll see it's going to get a response from a variety of things. It's talking about sediment runoff. It's talking about stormwater, chemicals. It's got some mitigation strategies and so on. So I can start asking more questions. And it's got a reference document down here. So common causes of water contamination, waterway contamination. So it's picked it from this list of documents. It can bring content from multiple documents if we ask. In fact, it has, because actually I've got one other document here, which is engineering work near waterways. So it's pulled that information from 2 different documents from that set. So this is a great way if you're wanting to create a knowledge base for your team, or if you're wanting to work with a set of known content that you can then use to work on documents perhaps, or to do research. So you might have knowledge or good content that you have that relates to the industry you're in that you might want to use in this kind of way. So that's agents very, very briefly. These agents can be extended to include data from outside your organization. So if I click into here, I can edit my agent. So these are end user creatable, by the way. You don't need to be a developer to do this. You simply click the little icon at the top here. If there's no agent, it'll ask you to create one, and you just follow the little wizard, and in about 2 minutes, you have your little working chatbot. So in here, I've got my source. I can add additional source libraries and locations. And you'll see that when I do that, it's going to let me sort of expand out the knowledge that it's going to, and I can have up to 20 locations, and a location can be a SharePoint site, a document library, a folder, or an individual document if I want to. So I can specify down to those levels. I can also customize the questions. So in here, I can just specify the default questions that I have, and I can give it additional information down here. So in this one here, it says reply in a formal tone. If I wanted to have an informal one, I could change the tone and include that in the response type down the bottom.
Hey, Steve.
Yes.
I have a question. It was just going back from when you were showing us the free Copilot in Explorer, the web version.
Yes.
Do we know what the limit is? You mentioned that the free has a limit. Is there a certain number of questions?
Yeah, it's not so much, it's a little hard to be accurate on that, because it's not based on questions, it's based on sort of the complexity of the thing that's being asked. So if you ask AI a simple question that like uses less units of compute than it does if you're using like very complex questions. So it does depend a little bit, but you know, 30 to 50 prompts in a day. Yeah. So there we go. Yeah. So yeah, I could probably have asked Copilot to answer that one, but I'll ask. So there we go. Yeah. So you can. So yeah. So it does have some limitations, but that's often enough for many people anyway. You can often generate. You know, it'll be enough to get you going. And if you're starting to see value, then you might go, well, actually want to step up a little. The other thing is that with the free versions, it often uses an older version older versions of the models that are behind the large language models. And so newer, faster, more capable models generally come in the paid versions these days. What I'll do is I'm just going to go and just quickly, just because I did have a few minutes where I had my technical challenge there, so I'm just going to do a few other things. Have you got another question?
Yeah.
Can you edit Power BI? So in Power BI itself, you get an agent within Power BI. So what I haven't tried is I haven't tried connecting from Copilot outside to a Power BI dashboard. If it depended where the data was as to whether that was accessible to the Microsoft 365 Copilot, because it's restricted to Microsoft 365 data, whereas with Power BI, your data sometimes will live in a data warehouse or some data source outside of your environment. So if you were wanting to have something that would allow you to say, for example, ask questions about financial information, you want to have an agent that connected to your financial system. So tell me, the sales history of this person, or give me a list of late payers or those kinds of things. Then you could use what's called a custom Copilot to do that using Copilot Studio, or you could use a custom developed one. So Copilot Studio lets you integrate other data sources into Copilot. Microsoft also gives you a way to do this through a thing called Search and Intelligence, where you can add external data for quite a variety of things. ServiceNow, for example, which is a service help desk platform. You can integrate it into SQL data sources. So if you've got a SQL Server-based data source, you can connect that in. But you may decide that your better path to go down for those scenarios would be to use Copilot Studio to develop a custom agent. So which is probably a better way to go, or use the Power BI Copilot within Power BI itself to help with that, which is more like the analyst one that I talked about before. A few other things that you can use Copilot for. You can use it for brainstorming. So if I go out of here and go back to I'm just going to go back to our chat, back to our home screen here. I might want to brainstorm on a topic. So maybe I'm wanting to understand more about how people learn. So brainstorm 3 ideas for helping teach my team about doing presentations. And you'll see it's got a thing in here, so it's just generating out some tips. You can do this in any AI tool. It'll go out and it'll be quite good at these brainstorming ideas. You can then refine it a bit and go, so in this case, I want in-person presentations at conferences. So now it's going to take that and it's going to say, okay, so clarifying it a wee bit now. So it's going to give me a little bit of more information about simulating a conference day, how to do storytelling, peer coaching circles. Maybe I should have done this before the session today. I won't ask it how to improve my webinar presentations. It might just might point out on my flaws. One of the things that as a manager that you might often want to do is you'll receive feedback from people on something, and Copilot can help you with like responding to that, like giving you ideas on how to respond. So for example, if somebody asks you something, you go, I haven't had that question before, it's something new, you might want to go and have a look and say, oh, what sort of techniques could I use to answer to respond to this question that I've had. Maybe it's somebody wants to take some leave and it's at an inconvenient time for the rest of the team. Maybe it's something where somebody's got like there's a challenge happening in the office where people are and you're wanting to find out like, how do I deal with that? Copilot can actually help give you some good suggestions on it. So and the quality is usually pretty good because it's trained on the information that's trained on is generally pretty good for those types of questions. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to jump. I won't jump back to my slides because if I'm afraid if I do, I might freeze my Teams again. So what I'll do is just finish up now. We'll just wrap up with a couple of points. I'm just grabbing my notes here. So what are some other things that you can use Copilot for? I haven't shown Microsoft Teams, but in Teams, if you've got Copilot, you can a Copilot license and you arrange a meeting. You can do meeting summaries. You can ask questions. If you've got a long-running meeting, you can ask questions in the chat about what happened earlier in the meeting. Say you're late to arrive, you can say, "Oh, you know what? What did we discuss this topic and what were the outcomes?" You can use it to summarize content, all sorts of content. There are limitations. The limitation for Word documents is 3 megabytes. So if the document's bigger than 3 megabytes, it will only summarize the start. That's likely to improve over time, but that's the current limit. Brainstorm ideas, which I've just talked about. You can integrate it with your business data, so you can pull business context in. We have an excellent example of this with a client who has connected Copilot Studio to documents inside their environment as well as their public website for their customer services team. A really quick thing to do, but what it lets the customer services team do is answer questions that are coming in often in real time over a phone call related to topics that they like. It might be a customer inquiry about a product or something, and they've got that information there. And that was really quick and easy to do because they actually had all the information. They just needed a way to pull it together to make it accessible. And finally, my last tip is that Copilot can write poetry. So if you find yourself in a situation where you do need a good poem, Copilot can do it. A couple of tips: tell it how long you want the poem to be, and tell it what style you want it to be in. So if you want a limerick, tell it you want a limerick. Otherwise, you'll get a long form poem, and some of them can be quite long. And give it a few ideas. I use this occasionally. I used it recently just for a poem for a dear friend of mine's 50th birthday party, where they read a poem out at my wedding. So I thought I should reciprocate, and it did an excellent job. Got a standing ovation. So if you want to make it sound like you're a poet, there's a really good way to do it. One more question.
Yeah.
Yes, so this is improving actually. Microsoft's just announced that there's a big improvement coming out. I think they said August, September timeframe for it. So with Copilot, you can convert voice to text, and then you can summarize that content. You can already do that with video as well. So if you've got recorded video and you want to generate a transcript from that video, you can also do that through and you do that using, you upload the video content into a SharePoint library. When you're done, or OneDrive, once you've done that, you open it, and then you'll get an option where you can actually generate the transcription if you've got a Copilot license installed if you're licensed for Copilot. With the phone transcription, I haven't used this. I've seen it demo, but I haven't actually used it myself. But what it can do is it can basically text to voice to text and generate a transcription of a Teams call if using the Teams calling feature. And the thing with this though is it's not so good with some of our accents. So you do need to check what gets transcribed. I would say it can be a bit hit and miss on some things. So don't rely on it 100%, but definitely use it to support meeting like your note taking related to a call. What I'll do is I might just end on three things that our team can help with. So if you are in the Copilot space, then we would love to talk to you. We do 3 areas that we work in. One is Copilot with helping with what we call pre-flight checks, making sure that your environment is ready for Copilot, specifically around SharePoint. We do training and adoption. So if you want training on Copilot or help with coming up with a plan to improve how it's used in your organization, we can help with that. We custom develop Copilots using the Copilot Studio that I mentioned before to connect your documents and data into a more sophisticated custom experience. And then we have an advanced AI team that builds AI tools and products. So think software products with integrated AI solutions is something that we do as a team as well. After this presentation, we will share the recording. I might edit out the bit where I've dropped off the call for a bit, and we'll also share the slides. I've included in the slides a series of resources. One of the resources is a link to a thing called the Work Trends Index. The Work Trends Index is basically a report that is done every year by Microsoft, covers all sorts of aspects of how AI and productivity happen in the workplace, identifies the problems and gives suggestions on how to improve them. It's a really good read. There's also a couple of reports in there, one from KPMG and one from Boston Consulting, and another one from MIT, that are really useful for giving you some background on AI problems as those organizations see them and how they've tackled them. And also a link to the Copilot Adoption Framework, which is a free set of tools from Microsoft to help you get the most out of your Copilot. So I hope that today's webinar has been good. Are there any final questions before we wrap up? Stop sharing my screen. And well, thanks very much for attending, everyone. If you've got any questions, please. Frank's just thank you, Frank. Thanks for attending. If anyone's got any follow-on questions afterwards, please reach out to Nicole or Mel, and they can help answer those also. Thank you.